What happens when humanity's next frontier becomes a hotspot for criminal activity? As we venture further into space, the challenges of maintaining order and justice take on a whole new dimension. Think about it, space isn't just a vast, empty void. It's a potential breeding ground for conflict, theft, and even violence. But here's the real question. How do we handle crime when there's no earth-bound legal system to rely on? Enter the concept of space prisons a necessity as we expand beyond our planet. But this isn't just about locking people up in zero gravity. It's about grappling with the ethical dilemmas of punishment in an environment where every decision could mean life or death. In this video, we'll explore the legal frameworks that might govern space crime, the cutting-edge technologies that could keep offenders contained, and the moral questions we'll face as we decide who gets to enforce justice in the cosmos. And trust me, by the end, you'll see space prisons in a way you've never imagined. So, buckle up. This is going to be a journey into the future of justice, where the stakes are as high as the stars themselves. The idea of crime in space might sound like science fiction, but it's a reality we've been quietly preparing for since the early days of space exploration. Even during the Apollo missions, NASA and other space agencies had to consider the possibility of disputes or misconduct among astronauts. After all, when you're confined in a tiny capsule hundreds of thousands of miles from Earth, tensions can run high. Fast forward to the International Space Station era, and the stakes grew even higher. With astronauts from multiple nations living and working together, the potential for conflict, whether personal or political, became a real concern. While no major crimes have occurred in space yet, the groundwork for addressing them has been quietly laid. But as we push further into the cosmos, the dynamics of crime are changing. The more people we send into space, the greater the chances of disputes over resources, territory, or even personal grievances. Imagine a future where lunar mining operations become a reality. Who gets to claim the valuable minerals beneath the moon's surface? What happens if two companies or nations clash over the same patch of lunar real estate? These aren't hypotheticals, they're scenarios we're already starting to see play out in discussions about space law. And then there's the issue of space habitats. Picture a bustling colony on Mars where thousands of people live and work. In such a high-stakes environment, even small conflicts could escalate quickly, especially when resources like oxygen, water, and food are limited. These challenges highlight a critical truth. As humanity expands into space, the need for robust legal frameworks becomes unavoidable. We can't rely on Earth-bound laws to solve problems that occur millions of miles away. And that's where the concept of space prisons comes into play. But before we dive into how these prisons might function, we need to understand the legal systems that will govern them. Who gets to make the rules in space? How do we ensure fairness and accountability in an environment where traditional law enforcement simply isn't feasible? These are the questions we'll tackle next as we explore the foundations of space law and how they'll shape the future of justice beyond Earth. So, how do we even begin to tackle the idea of justice in space? The foundation lies in understanding the legal frameworks that currently exist, or more accurately, the gaps in those frameworks. Right now, the cornerstone of space law is the Outer Space Treaty of 1967. This landmark agreement, signed by over 100 nations, establishes that space is the province of all mankind and prohibits any country from claiming sovereignty over celestial bodies. It's a noble idea, but when it comes to addressing crime, the treaty falls short. It doesn't provide clear guidelines on how to handle criminal activity beyond Earth, leaving a legal gray area that could become a minefield as space exploration expands. The Outer Space Treaty does touch on jurisdiction, stating that the country responsible for launching a spacecraft retains authority over it and its crew. But what happens when a crime occurs on a multinational space station or a privately owned lunar base? Who has the right to prosecute? And what if the crime involves individuals from different nations? These questions highlight the urgent need for new international agreements that go beyond the treaty's broad principles. We're talking about laws that can address the complexities of jurisdiction, punishment, and even rehabilitation in an environment where traditional legal systems simply don't apply. This brings us to the concept of extraterrestrial legal systems, laws designed specifically for life beyond Earth. Unlike Earth-based laws, which are shaped by centuries of cultural, political, and social evolution, space laws would need to be crafted from scratch. They'd have to account for the unique challenges of space, like limited resources, isolation, and the psychological toll of living in such an extreme environment. For example, would punishments in space focus more on rehabilitation than incarceration, given the high cost of maintaining prisons in zero gravity? And how would we ensure that these laws are fair and just, especially when they're being enforced by a small group of people who might also be living under immense stress? But here's the real kicker: who gets to enforce these laws? On Earth, we have police, courts, and prison systems that have evolved over centuries to maintain order. In space, we'd need a completely new approach. Would we rely on international space agencies to act as law enforcement? Or would private companies operating in space have their own security teams? And what role would artificial intelligence play in monitoring behavior and ensuring compliance? These are the kinds of questions that will shape the future of justice in space, and they're questions we need to start answering now. As we grapple with these legal challenges, one thing becomes clear: the laws of space won't just be about punishment, they'll also need to focus on prevention and rehabilitation. After all, in an environment where every resource is precious and every life is critical to the survival of a mission or colony, locking someone away might not always be the best solution. Instead, we might see a shift toward restorative justice, where offenders are given the chance to contribute to the community in meaningful ways. It's a radical idea, but in the harsh realities of space, it might just be the most practical one. Of course, none of this would be possible without the technological innovations that make space prisons and space law enforcement feasible. From advanced surveillance systems to AI-driven conflict resolution tools, the tools we develop will play a crucial role in shaping how justice is administered beyond Earth. But that's a story for the next part of our journey, where we'll dive into the cutting-edge technologies that could turn the concept of space prisons from science fiction into reality. For now, though, it's clear that the legal frameworks we build today will determine whether space becomes a frontier of fairness or a new Wild West. Designing a prison on Earth is no small feat, but designing one in space, that's a challenge on an entirely different scale. Imagine trying to build a secure, self-sustaining facility in an environment where every breath of air, every drop of water, and every bite of food has to be carefully managed. Add to that the complications of microgravity, radiation exposure, and the sheer isolation of space, and you've got a puzzle that pushes the boundaries of engineering and ethics. So, what would a space prison even look like? Would it be a floating facility orbiting Earth, or would we build it on the Moon or Mars? Each option comes with its own set of hurdles and opportunities. Let's start with the basics: resources. On Earth, prisons are designed with the assumption that essentials like food, water, and energy are relatively easy to come by. In space, every resource is precious and finite. A space prison would need to be entirely self-sufficient, relying on advanced life support systems to recycle air and water, and possibly even grow food. This isn't just about keeping inmates alive, it's about creating a system that can function without constant resupply from Earth, which could be prohibitively expensive or logistically impossible depending on the prison's location. And then there's the issue of microgravity. How do you keep inmates from floating away or using the lack of gravity to their advantage? The design would need to incorporate artificial gravity systems, possibly through rotating sections, to maintain order and prevent health issues caused by prolonged weightlessness. Radiation is another major concern. Space is filled with cosmic rays and solar radiation that can pose serious health risks over time. A space prison would need robust shielding to protect both inmates and staff, adding another layer of complexity to its construction. And let's not forget the psychological toll of confinement in such an extreme environment. On Earth, prisoners at least have the comfort of sunlight, fresh air, and the occasional glimpse of the outside world. In space, those luxuries are non-existent. The isolation and monotony could take a severe toll on mental health, raising questions about the ethics of subjecting anyone to such conditions. But here's where innovation comes into play. One potential solution is the use of AI and robotics to manage these facilities. Imagine a prison where AI systems monitor inmate behavior, manage life support systems, and even mediate conflict. Robots could handle routine tasks like meal delivery and maintenance, reducing the need for human staff and minimizing the risk of violence. These technologies wouldn't just make space prisons more efficient, they could also make them safer for everyone involved. However, this raises its own set of ethical questions. How much autonomy should we give AI in managing human lives, and what happens if the systems fail? The location of a space prison is another critical factor. An orbiting facility might be easier to access from Earth, but it would also be more vulnerable to sabotage or escape attempts. A lunar or Martian prison, on the other hand, would offer more natural barriers to escape, but the cost and complexity of building and maintaining such a facility would be astronomical, literally. Each option has its pros and cons, and the choice would likely depend on the specific goals of the prison system. Are we aiming for rehabilitation, punishment, or simply containment? The answer to that question will shape everything from the prison's design to its location. As we consider these challenges, it's impossible to ignore the ethical implications. Is it fair to isolate prisoners in an environment as harsh and unforgiving as space? What does it say about us as a society if we're willing to send people to such extreme conditions, even if they've committed crimes? These are questions without easy answers, but they're essential to address as we move forward. And then there's the psychological impact of space incarceration. How do we ensure that prisoners don't lose their sense of humanity in such an alien environment? These are the kinds of questions that will shape the future of space prisons and the future of justice itself. As we move forward, it's clear that the design of space prisons will be about more than just engineering. It will be a reflection of our values, our priorities, and our vision for humanity's future in the cosmos. And that's a responsibility we can't take lightly. Now, let's shift our focus to one of the most critical yet often overlooked aspects of space prisons, the psychological toll on inmates. Imagine being confined in a sterile, artificial environment millions of miles from Earth, with no access to sunlight, fresh air, or the comforting rhythms of nature. The isolation alone could be devastating. On Earth, even the most secure prisons offer some connection to the outside world, through windows, outdoor exercise, or visits from loved ones. In space, those lifelines simply don't exist. The psychological challenges of space incarceration are unlike anything we've ever faced, and they demand innovative solutions. Studies on long-term space habitation, like those conducted on the International Space Station, give us a glimpse into how extreme isolation and confinement affect the human mind. Astronauts who are highly trained and mentally resilient still report feelings of loneliness, anxiety, and even depression during extended missions. For inmates who may lack the same level of preparation or support, these effects could be magnified. The monotony of life in a space prison, where every day looks the same and the environment is utterly alien, could lead to severe mental health issues, from cognitive decline to emotional breakdowns. And in a place where every resource is precious, the ripple effects of one person's psychological distress could endanger the entire facility. But it's not all doom and gloom. Advances in technology and psychology could offer ways to mitigate these challenges. Virtual reality therapy, for example, might provide inmates with a temporary escape from their surroundings, allowing them to visit Earth-like environments or engage in calming, immersive experiences. Communal spaces designed to foster social interaction could help combat the crushing loneliness of space incarceration. Even something as simple as simulated natural light or greenery could make a significant difference in mental well-being. These solutions wouldn't just benefit inmates, they could also improve the morale and productivity of prison staff, creating a safer and more humane environment for everyone. This raises an intriguing question. Could space prisons actually be more humane than their Earth-based counterparts? On one hand, the extreme conditions of space make incarceration inherently harsher. But on the other, the need for self-sufficiency and resource efficiency might push us to design facilities that prioritize rehabilitation over punishment. In a space prison, every life is valuable and every person's contribution matters. This could lead to a system where inmates are given meaningful work, educational opportunities, and psychological support, all aimed at helping them reintegrate into society, whether that society is on Earth or in a space colony. It's a radical idea, but one that aligns with the realities of life beyond our planet. Of course, these possibilities come with their own set of ethical dilemmas. Is it fair to subject anyone to the psychological strain of space incarceration, even if they've committed a crime? And if we do, how do we ensure that the system is just and compassionate? These questions force us to confront the core principles of justice and punishment. Are we willing to prioritize humanity's survival over individual rights, or can we find a balance that respects both? As we grapple with these issues, it's clear that the psychology of space incarceration isn't just about mental health, it's about defining what kind of society we want to build in the stars. This brings us to the broader ethical implications of space punishment, a topic that challenges our deepest assumptions about justice, morality, and the human condition. How do we balance the need for order with the imperative to treat people with dignity, even in the most extreme environments? And what does it mean to be just in a place where the rules are still being written? These are the questions we'll explore next as we delve into the moral complexities of enforcing justice beyond Earth. The ethical dilemmas surrounding space prisons are as vast and complex as space itself. At the heart of the debate is a fundamental question. Is it morally justifiable to send criminals to an environment as harsh and unforgiving as space? On Earth, incarceration is already a contentious issue, with debates over the balance between punishment and rehabilitation. But in space, the stakes are exponentially higher. The isolation, the lack of natural light, the constant threat of radiation, these factors could make space prisons feel less like correctional facilities and more like cruel and unusual punishment. And that raises a troubling question. Are we crossing a line by subjecting people to such extreme conditions, even if they've committed crimes? One of the most pressing concerns is the potential for exploitation. In a space colony or mining operation, every pair of hands is valuable. The temptation to use inmates as a source of cheap labor could be overwhelming, especially in environments where resources are scarce and survival depends on constant effort. Imagine a scenario where prisoners are forced to work in hazardous lunar mines or maintain life support systems on Mars. While this might seem like a practical solution, it risks turning space prisons into modern-day penal colonies where human rights are sacrificed for the sake of efficiency. The ethical implications are staggering. Are we willing to compromise our principles for the sake of progress? And if so, what does that say about the kind of society we're building beyond Earth? This brings us to the broader question of deterrence versus rehabilitation. On Earth, the goal of incarceration is often twofold: to punish offenders and to prevent future crimes. But in space, where every life is critical to the survival of a mission or colony, the focus might need to shift. Instead of simply locking people away, space prisons could prioritize rehabilitation, helping inmates reintegrate into society and contribute meaningfully to their communities. This approach aligns with the principles of restorative justice, which emphasizes repairing harm and restoring relationships rather than simply punishing wrongdoing. In the context of space, where resources are limited and cooperation is essential, restorative justice might not just be the ethical choice, it could be the only practical one. But implementing restorative justice in space comes with its own set of challenges. How do we ensure that inmates are given genuine opportunities for rehabilitation rather than being exploited for their labor? And how do we balance the need for security with the imperative to treat people with dignity? These questions force us to confront the core principles of justice and morality. Are we willing to prioritize humanity's survival over individual rights, or can we find a balance that respects both? The answers will shape not just the future of space prisons, but the future of humanity itself. As we grapple with these ethical dilemmas, it's clear that space prisons are about more than just punishment. They're a reflection of our values, our priorities, and our vision for the future. And that's why it's so important to approach these issues with care and thoughtfulness. The decisions we make today will echo across the stars, shaping the kind of society we become as we venture further into the cosmos. But before we can answer these questions, we need to explore alternative solutions, approaches that go beyond traditional incarceration and offer new ways to think about justice in space. And that's where our journey takes us next. As we consider the challenges of space prisons, it's worth asking, are there better ways to handle crime beyond Earth? What if, instead of locking people away, we focused on solutions that address the root causes of conflict and foster a sense of community? This is where alternative approaches to space crime come into play, ideas that could redefine how we think about justice in the cosmos. One promising concept is community-based rehabilitation. Imagine a space colony where offenders aren't isolated but instead integrated into the community, contributing to its survival and growth. This approach aligns with the principles of restorative justice, which emphasizes repairing harm and rebuilding relationships rather than simply punishing wrongdoing. In the close-knit environment of a space habitat, where every individual's actions impact the collective, this could be a game changer. Restorative justice in space might look like this. Instead of being confined, offenders could take on roles that directly benefit the community, such as maintaining life support systems, growing food, or assisting in scientific research. This not only helps them make amends, but also ensures that their skills are put to good use. It's a win-win scenario. Offenders are given a chance to redeem themselves, and the community gains valuable contributors. This approach has already shown promise on Earth, with programs that focus on reconciliation and reintegration rather than punishment. For example, some indigenous communities use restorative practices to resolve conflicts, emphasizing healing and community harmony over retribution. Could these principles be adapted for space? Absolutely. In fact, they might be even more effective in an environment where cooperation is essential for survival. Education and cultural adaptation also play a crucial role in preventing crime in space. When people understand the stakes and feel connected to their community, they're less likely to engage in harmful behavior. This means investing in programs that teach conflict resolution, teamwork, and the importance of shared resources. It also means fostering a culture of mutual respect and accountability, where everyone feels valued and responsible for the well-being of the group. Think of it as building a social immune system, one that can identify and address potential conflicts before they escalate. On Earth, programs like peer mediation in schools and workplace conflict resolution training have proven effective in reducing tensions and promoting cooperation. These models could serve as blueprints for space communities, helping to create a culture where crime is less likely to take root. Technology, of course, will be a key player in preventing and resolving conflicts in space. AI-driven systems could monitor behavior, identify potential issues, and even mediate disputes in real time. Picture an AI that detects rising tensions among crew members and suggests de-escalation strategies or alerts a human mediator. These systems wouldn't replace human judgment but would act as tools to support it, ensuring that conflicts are addressed quickly and fairly. Virtual reality could also play a role, offering immersive training programs that prepare people for the unique challenges of life in space. By simulating high-stress scenarios and teaching effective coping strategies, these programs could reduce the likelihood of conflicts arising in the first place. But perhaps the most exciting possibility is the role of technology in creating a sense of connection and purpose. In the isolating environment of space, maintaining mental health is just as important as physical health. AI-powered mental health assistants could provide personalized support, helping individuals manage stress and build resilience. Virtual reality could offer a lifeline to Earth, allowing space colonists to visit familiar places or connect with loved ones back home. These technologies wouldn't just prevent crime, they'd enhance the overall quality of life, making space communities more cohesive and resilient. As we explore these alternative solutions, it's clear that the future of justice in space doesn't have to mirror the systems we've built on Earth. By focusing on rehabilitation, education, and technology, we can create a system that's not only effective but also humane. It's a vision of justice that reflects the best of what humanity can achieve, a system that prioritizes healing, growth, and the collective good. And as we venture further into the cosmos, these principles could guide us toward a future where space isn't just a new frontier, but a place where justice and humanity thrive together. Now, let's turn our attention to the role of technology in preventing crime and how it could shape the future of space law enforcement. When it comes to preventing crime in space, technology isn't just a tool, it's a necessity. In an environment where every resource is precious and every action has consequences, advanced systems could be the key to maintaining order. Take surveillance, for example. On Earth, cameras and sensors are common in high-security areas, but in space, surveillance would need to be far more sophisticated. Imagine a network of AI-driven cameras and sensors that monitor every corner of a space habitat, detecting unusual behavior or potential conflicts before they escalate. These systems wouldn't just record incidents, they'd analyze patterns, predict risks, and even alert authorities in real time. It's a level of oversight that could make space communities safer, but it also raises important ethical questions. How much monitoring is too much, and who gets to decide what counts as suspicious behavior? Biometric monitoring takes this concept even further. In a space habitat, every individual's health and behavior could be tracked through wearable devices that measure heart rate, stress levels, and even brain activity. This data could help identify signs of distress or aggression early, allowing for timely interventions. For instance, if a crew member's stress levels spike, An AI system could suggest relaxation techniques or connect them with a mental health professional. But here's the catch: constant biometric monitoring could feel invasive, blurring the line between safety and surveillance. Would people be willing to sacrifice their privacy for the sake of security? And how do we ensure that this data isn't misused or exploited? Predictive algorithms add another layer to this technological toolkit. By analyzing vast amounts of data, from past conflicts to environmental conditions, these algorithms could forecast potential hotspots for crime or unrest. For example, if a space colony is running low on resources, the system might predict an increase in theft or disputes and recommend proactive measures, like redistributing supplies or increasing security in vulnerable areas. The potential benefits are enormous, but so are the risks. What happens if the algorithm gets it wrong? Could it lead to unfair targeting or unnecessary restrictions? These are the kinds of questions we'll need to answer as we integrate predictive technologies into space habitats. But technology alone isn't enough. The design of space habitats themselves can play a crucial role in preventing crime. Transparent structures, for instance, could reduce opportunities for secrecy and misconduct. Imagine living in a habitat where walls are made of clear materials, creating a sense of openness and accountability. Communal living spaces could foster a stronger sense of community, encouraging cooperation and mutual respect. Even something as simple as lighting bright, natural light that mimics Earth's day-night cycle could improve mood and reduce tension. These design choices aren't just about aesthetics, they're about creating an environment where crime is less likely to take root. Of course, all of this comes at a cost. Building and maintaining advanced surveillance systems, biometric devices, and predictive algorithms requires significant investment. And when you factor in the expense of constructing space habitats with crime prevention in mind, the economic burden becomes even clearer. But here's the thing: the cost of not preventing crime could be far higher. In a space colony where resources are limited and survival depends on cooperation, even a single act of theft or violence could have catastrophic consequences. Investing in prevention isn't just a matter of ethics, it's a matter of survival. As we look to the future, it's clear that technology will play a central role in shaping how we handle crime in space. But it's not just about the tools we use, it's about how we use them, striking the right balance between security and privacy, between prevention and freedom, will be one of the greatest challenges we face as we venture further into the cosmos. And as we grapple with these questions, we're not just building space habitats, we're building the foundations of a new kind of society. A society where justice, safety, and humanity can thrive, even in the most extreme environments. Now, let's shift our focus to the economic realities of space prisons and how the costs of maintaining these facilities could shape the future of justice beyond Earth. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather, the rocket in the room, the economics of space prisons. Building and maintaining a prison on Earth is already a costly endeavor, but when you factor in the astronomical expenses of space travel and infrastructure, the numbers become truly staggering. Just launching a single kilogram of material into orbit can cost tens of thousands of dollars. Now imagine the price tag for constructing an entire facility capable of housing and sustaining inmates in the harsh environment of space. It's a financial challenge that raises serious questions about feasibility. But here's the twist: while the costs are undeniably high, the potential benefits could make space prisons a worthwhile investment if we approach them strategically. One way to tackle the financial burden is through international collaboration. Space exploration has always been a global effort, with countries pooling resources and expertise to achieve shared goals. The International Space Station is a prime example of what can be accomplished when nations work together. Applying this model to space prisons could spread the costs across multiple stakeholders, making the project more manageable. Imagine a consortium of countries contributing funding, technology, and personnel to create a shared facility. Not only would this reduce the financial strain on any single nation, but it could also foster a sense of global responsibility for justice beyond Earth. However, this approach comes with its own challenges, from navigating political tensions to ensuring equitable decision-making. Would nations with more resources have greater influence over how the prison operates? And how do we ensure that all voices are heard in shaping the system? Private investment is another potential funding source. As space becomes increasingly commercialized, companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin are leading the charge in lowering the cost of space travel. These private entities could play a key role in developing and maintaining space prisons, either through direct investment or public-private partnerships. For corporations involved in space mining or tourism, funding a prison might be seen as a way to protect their interests, ensuring that criminal activity doesn't jeopardize their operations. But this raises ethical concerns. Should private companies have a say in how justice is administered in space? And what happens if profit motives clash with the principles of fairness and rehabilitation? These are questions we'll need to address as we explore the role of private capital in space justice. Now, let's consider the economic benefits. While the upfront costs of space prisons are daunting, they could drive technological advancements with far-reaching impact. Developing self-sustaining life support systems, advanced robotics, and efficient resource management for a space prison could lead to breakthroughs that benefit other areas of space exploration. Think about it, the same technologies that keep inmates alive in a space prison could also support long-term missions to Mars or beyond, and then there's the potential for job creation. Building and operating a space prison would require a skilled workforce, from engineers and technicians to psychologists and legal experts. This could create new opportunities in the growing space economy, helping to offset some of the costs. But here's the big question: do the benefits outweigh the costs? On one hand, space prisons could provide a necessary solution for maintaining order in a future where humanity is spread across the cosmos. On the other, the financial and ethical challenges are immense. Are we willing to invest billions or even trillions of dollars in a system that might only serve a small number of people? And how do we balance the need for justice with the imperative to allocate resources wisely? These are the kinds of questions that will shape the future of space prisons, and they're questions we need to answer carefully. As we weigh the economic pros and cons, it's impossible to ignore the environmental impact of space prisons. Every launch into orbit leaves behind debris and contributes to the growing problem of space pollution. Building a prison in space would require multiple launches, each adding to the clutter in Earth's orbit. And then there's the energy consumption. Maintaining a facility in space demands a constant supply of power, which would likely come from solar panels or nuclear reactors. Both options have environmental trade-offs, from the production of solar panels to the risks of nuclear waste. These factors force us to confront the broader implications of our actions. Are we solving one problem only to create another? And how do we ensure that our pursuit of justice doesn't come at the expense of the very environment we're trying to protect? The economics of space prisons are about more than just dollars and cents. They're about priorities, values, and the kind of future we want to build. As we grapple with these questions, it's clear that the decisions we make today will have far-reaching consequences, not just for space exploration, but for humanity as a whole. And that's why it's so important to approach these issues with care, thoughtfulness, and a commitment to doing what's right. Now, let's turn our attention to the environmental impact of space prisons and how we can balance the need for justice with the imperative to protect our planet and beyond. As we venture into the cosmos, the environmental impact of our actions becomes a critical concern, even when it comes to something as seemingly isolated as space prisons. Constructing and operating these facilities isn't just a logistical challenge, it's an ecological one. Every launch into orbit leaves behind debris, contributing to the growing problem of space pollution. With thousands of satellites and fragments already cluttering Earth's orbit, adding the infrastructure for space prisons could exacerbate the issue, creating hazards for future missions and even endangering existing space assets. The question isn't just how we build these prisons, it's how we do so responsibly without turning space into a junkyard. Resource depletion is another pressing concern. Space prisons would require vast amounts of materials, from metals for construction to rare elements for advanced technologies. Mining these resources on Earth or in space could have significant environmental consequences, disrupting ecosystems or depleting finite reserves. And once the prisons are operational, they'd need a constant supply of energy, water, and oxygen to sustain life. In an environment where every resource is precious, the strain on supplies could be immense. But here's the good news: sustainable practices could help mitigate these challenges. Imagine prisons equipped with closed-loop recycling systems that turn waste into usable resources, or solar arrays that harness the sun's energy to power life support systems. These innovations wouldn't just reduce environmental harm, they'd set a standard for sustainability in space. The concept of sustainability in space prisons goes beyond just recycling and renewable energy. It's about rethinking how we design and operate these facilities to minimize their footprint. For example, modular construction techniques could allow prisons to be built with minimal waste, using materials that are lightweight, durable, and easy to repair. Advanced water purification systems could ensure that every drop is reused, reducing the need for constant resupply missions. Even the psychological well-being of inmates could be addressed through sustainable design, with green spaces or virtual environments that mimic Earth's natural landscapes. These features wouldn't just benefit the environment, they'd also create a more humane and livable space for everyone involved. But sustainability isn't just about technology, it's about mindset. Space is a shared resource, and preserving it for future generations requires a collective commitment to responsible stewardship. This means setting international standards for space construction and operation, ensuring that every project, whether it's a prison, a colony, or a research station, adheres to principles of environmental responsibility. It also means fostering a culture of accountability, where every nation and organization takes ownership of its impact on the cosmos. After all, space isn't just the final frontier, it's a fragile ecosystem that we all share. This brings us to the role of international cooperation in managing space prisons. Just as sustainability requires a global effort, so too does the administration of justice beyond Earth. No single nation can or should bear the burden of building and operating these facilities alone. Instead, we'll need a collaborative approach with countries pooling resources, expertise, and oversight to create a system that's fair, effective, and environmentally responsible. International agreements could establish guidelines for everything from construction standards to waste management, ensuring that space prisons are built with the planet and the cosmos in mind. The challenges are immense, but so are the opportunities. By prioritizing sustainability and cooperation, we can create a system of space justice that reflects the best of humanity's values. It's a vision that goes beyond punishment, focusing instead on responsibility, innovation, and shared stewardship. And as we take these steps, we're not just building prisons, we're laying the foundation for a future where space remains a vibrant, sustainable resource for all of humanity. Now, let's explore how international collaboration could shape the future of space prisons and why it's essential for creating a system that works for everyone. When it comes to space prisons, one thing is certain: no single nation can or should go it alone. The challenges of building and governing these facilities are too vast, too complex, and too costly for any one country to tackle independently. This is where international cooperation becomes not just beneficial but essential. Think about it: space is a shared frontier, and the rules we establish there will shape humanity's future for generations to come. But aligning the legal systems, cultural values, and priorities of multiple nations is no small feat. How do we create a system that's fair, effective, and universally accepted? The answer lies in learning from what's already worked and what hasn't in the realm of international space collaboration. Take the International Space Station, or ISS, as a prime example. This orbiting laboratory is a testament to what humanity can achieve when we work together. Built and operated by a coalition of nations, including the United States, Russia, Japan, Canada, and several European countries, the ISS has been a shining example of international cooperation for over 2 decades. Despite political tensions on Earth, astronauts from different nations have lived and worked side by side in space, sharing resources, knowledge, and a common goal. The ISS operates under a framework of agreements that outline everything from crew responsibilities to liability in case of accidents. These agreements provide a blueprint for how space prisons could be governed, through clear, collaborative rules that prioritize fairness and accountability. But the ISS isn't the only model we can look to. The Artemis Accords, a set of principles for lunar exploration, offer another example of international collaboration in space. Signed by over a dozen countries, the Accords aim to establish peaceful, sustainable exploration of the Moon and beyond. They address issues like resource utilization, transparency, and the protection of heritage sites, principles that could easily apply to the governance of space prisons. For instance, how do we ensure that resources used to build and maintain these facilities are shared equitably? How do we protect the rights of inmates while maintaining security? These are questions that require input from a diverse range of voices, not just a single nation or corporation. Of course, international cooperation comes with its own set of challenges. Different countries have different legal systems, cultural values, and approaches to justice. What one nation considers a fair punishment, another might see as overly harsh or too lenient. Bridging these gaps will require compromise, dialogue, and a willingness to find common ground. It won't be easy, but the stakes are too high to ignore. After all, space prisons aren't just about punishment. They're about creating a system of justice that reflects humanity's shared values and aspirations. One potential solution is the creation of an international space court, a body tasked with overseeing the legal and ethical aspects of space incarceration. This court could draw on expertise from around the world, ensuring that decisions are informed by a wide range of perspectives. It could also serve as a forum for resolving disputes, whether they involve inmates, staff, or the nations funding the facility. By centralizing authority in a neutral, transparent body, we could avoid the pitfalls of unilateral decision-making and create a system that's truly just. But governance is just one piece of the puzzle. To make space prisons viable in the long term, we'll need to think beyond punishment and toward sustainability. Imagine a facility that's not just a place of confinement, but a self-sustaining community. Inmates could contribute to the maintenance and operation of the prison, growing food, recycling waste, and even conducting scientific research. This approach wouldn't just reduce costs, it could also provide a sense of purpose and dignity for those serving time. In a way, space prisons could become microcosms of the larger space colonies we hope to build, testing new technologies and social systems in a controlled environment. The potential for innovation is immense. From advanced recycling systems to AI-driven conflict resolution tools, space prisons could serve as laboratories for the technologies and practices that will shape humanity's future in space. And by involving multiple nations in their development and operation, we could ensure that these innovations benefit everyone, not just a select few. It's a vision of space justice that's not just about punishment, but about progress, a system that reflects the best of what humanity can achieve when we work together. As we look to the stars, it's clear that the challenges of space prisons are as much about collaboration as they are about confinement. By drawing on the lessons of the ISS, the Artemis Accords, and other examples of international cooperation, we can create a system that's fair, sustainable, and forward-thinking. And in doing so, we'll not only address the issue of crime in space, we'll lay the foundation for a future where humanity thrives both on Earth and beyond. Now, let's explore how space prisons could evolve into self-sustaining communities, and what that means for the future of justice in the cosmos. Imagine a space prison not as a cold, sterile facility, but as a thriving, self-sustaining community. Picture inmates tending to hydroponic gardens, recycling waste into usable resources, or even conducting experiments that push the boundaries of science. This isn't just a utopian dream, it's a practical solution to the unique challenges of incarceration in space. In an environment where every resource is precious and every hand is needed, space prisons could become more than just places of punishment. They could evolve into hubs of innovation and rehabilitation, where inmates are given the chance to contribute meaningfully to their community while preparing for reintegration into society, whether that society is on Earth or in a distant space colony. The concept of self-sufficiency is at the heart of this vision. On Earth, prisons are often seen as a drain on resources, but in space, the equation flips. A self-sustaining space prison would need to produce its own food, recycle its own waste, and generate its own energy. Inmates could play a central role in these efforts, learning valuable skills in agriculture, engineering, and resource management. For example, tending to hydroponic gardens could teach inmates about sustainable farming, while maintaining life support systems could provide hands-on experience in engineering and problem-solving. These activities wouldn't just keep the prison running, they'd also offer inmates a sense of purpose and accomplishment, key components of successful rehabilitation. But self-sufficiency isn't just about survival, it's about creating a sense of community. In a space prison, every individual's actions impact the collective. This interdependence could foster a culture of cooperation and mutual respect, where inmates work together to overcome challenges and achieve shared goals. Think of it as a microcosm of the larger space colonies. We hope to build a place where people learn to live and work together in harmony despite their differences. This approach aligns with the principles of restorative justice, which emphasize repairing harm and rebuilding relationships rather than simply punishing wrongdoing. In the close-knit environment of a space habitat, restorative justice might not just be the ethical choice, it could be the only practical one. Of course, achieving self-sufficiency in space is no small feat. The technical challenges alone are immense. Hydroponic systems would need to be meticulously maintained to ensure a steady food supply, while waste recycling systems would have to operate flawlessly to prevent contamination. Energy production would require advanced solar arrays or even nuclear reactors, both of which come with their own set of risks and complexities, and then there's the human factor. Managing a self-sustaining prison would require a highly skilled staff, from engineers and scientists to psychologists and legal experts. The cost of training and retaining this workforce could be astronomical, literally. But perhaps the biggest challenge is the risk of exploitation. In a space prison where every pair of hands is valuable, the temptation to use inmates as a source of cheap labor could be overwhelming. Imagine a scenario where prisoners are forced to work in hazardous conditions, maintaining life support systems or mining resources with little regard for their well-being. This raises serious ethical questions. Are we willing to compromise our principles for the sake of efficiency? And how do we ensure that inmates are treated with dignity and respect, even as they contribute to the community? These are questions that demand careful consideration as we explore the potential of self-sustaining space prisons. Despite these challenges, the potential benefits are undeniable. A self-sustaining space prison could serve as a model for future space colonies, testing new technologies and social systems in a controlled environment. The lessons learned could be applied to larger habitats, helping to create a more sustainable and equitable future for humanity in space. And for the inmates themselves, the experience could be transformative. By contributing to the community and learning valuable skills, they could emerge from their incarceration not just as reformed individuals, but as productive members of society, whether that society is on Earth or in the stars. As we look to the future, it's clear that space prisons could play a pivotal role in humanity's expansion into the cosmos. They're not just about punishment, they're about creating a system of justice that reflects our highest aspirations. A system that prioritizes rehabilitation over retribution, community over isolation, and sustainability over exploitation. It's a vision that challenges us to rethink what justice means in the context of space and to strive for a future where humanity thrives both on Earth and beyond. Now, let's explore how space prisons could fit into the broader picture of space colonization and what that means for the future of humanity. As humanity sets its sights on colonizing the cosmos, the concept of space prisons takes on a broader significance, one that extends far beyond punishment. These facilities could play a pivotal role in shaping the future of space colonies, influencing everything from social structures to governance models. Think about it, space prisons aren't just places to confine offenders. They're microcosms of the challenges and opportunities we'll face as we build new societies beyond Earth. By addressing the complexities of incarceration in space, we're forced to confront questions about fairness, sustainability, and the very nature of justice in an environment where every decision carries life or death consequences. One of the most intriguing possibilities is that space prisons could serve as testing grounds for new technologies and societal systems. Imagine a facility where cutting-edge innovations in recycling, energy production, and artificial intelligence are put to the test under the most extreme conditions. The lessons learned here could be applied to larger space colonies, helping to create more efficient and resilient habitats. For example, a prison's closed-loop life support system, designed to sustain inmates with minimal external resources, could become the blueprint for self-sufficient colonies on Mars or the Moon. Similarly, AI systems developed to monitor and manage inmate behavior could evolve into tools for maintaining order and harmony in sprawling space settlements. In this way, space prisons could become incubators for the technologies that will define humanity's future in space. But the impact of space prisons goes beyond technology. They could also shape the social and political structures of space colonies. On Earth, prisons are often seen as a reflection of a society's values, its approach to justice, rehabilitation, and human rights. In space, where resources are scarce and survival depends on cooperation, the way we design and operate prisons could set a precedent for how we govern entire colonies. Will we prioritize punishment, or will we focus on rehabilitation and reintegration? Will we create systems that emphasize individual accountability, or will we lean toward collective responsibility? These decisions will ripple through every aspect of life in space, influencing everything from education and healthcare to conflict resolution and resource allocation. This raises a provocative question. Could space prisons become a permanent feature of human civilization beyond Earth? On one hand, the harsh realities of space might make incarceration an unavoidable necessity. In a high-stakes environment where even minor conflicts can have catastrophic consequences, isolating offenders might be the only way to ensure the safety and stability of a colony. On the other hand, the unique challenges of space could push us to rethink the very concept of incarceration. Perhaps instead of traditional prisons, we'll develop alternative systems that focus on restorative justice, community service, or even psychological rehabilitation. The choices we make will shape not just the future of space prisons, but the future of humanity itself. As we grapple with these questions, it's worth reflecting on the lessons we've learned from Earth-based prisons. For centuries, incarceration has been a cornerstone of justice systems around the world, but it's also been a source of controversy and debate. Issues like overcrowding, recidivism, and the psychological toll of confinement have sparked calls for reform, pushing us to explore alternatives like restorative justice and community-based rehabilitation. These lessons could be invaluable as we design space prisons, helping us avoid the mistakes of the past while embracing new possibilities for the future. After all, space offers us a blank slate, a chance to build a system of justice that's not just effective, but also humane and forward-thinking. Ultimately, the story of space prisons is about more than just crime and punishment. It's about the kind of society we want to create as we venture into the stars. Will we carry the flaws and inequalities of Earth-based systems into space, or will we seize the opportunity to build something better? The answers to these questions will shape the future of space colonization, influencing everything from governance and technology to culture and ethics. And as we take these first steps into the unknown, one thing is clear: the choices we make today will echo across the cosmos, defining humanity's legacy for generations to come. Now, let's turn our attention to the ethical dilemmas of space incarceration and how they challenge our deepest assumptions about justice and morality. As we look to the stars and imagine the future of space prisons, it's worth pausing to reflect on the lessons we've learned from Earth-based systems. After all, prisons on our planet have been around for centuries, and their successes and failures offer a wealth of insights that could shape how we approach justice beyond Earth. One of the most glaring issues with Earth's prisons is overcrowding. Facilities designed for a few hundred inmates often house thousands, leading to unsanitary conditions, increased violence, and a lack of access to rehabilitation programs. In space, where every square meter comes at a premium, overcrowding could be even more disastrous. Imagine a cramped habitat where tensions boil over, threatening the safety of everyone on board. To avoid this, space prisons would need to prioritize capacity planning, ensuring that facilities are designed to accommodate inmates without compromising their well-being or the stability of the environment. Another critical lesson from Earth is the importance of rehabilitation. Too often, prisons focus on punishment rather than preparing inmates for life after release. This approach not only fails to reduce recidivism, but also perpetuates cycles of crime and incarceration. In space, where resources are limited and every individual's contribution matters, rehabilitation becomes even more essential. Picture a system where inmates are given opportunities to learn new skills, contribute to the community, and address the root causes of their behavior. This could mean everything from vocational training in space engineering to therapy sessions aimed at improving mental health. By focusing on rehabilitation, space prisons could transform offenders into productive members of society, whether that society is on Earth or in a distant colony. Mental health support is another area where Earth's prisons often fall short. Incarceration can take a severe toll on mental well-being, leading to issues like depression, anxiety, and even psychosis. In space, where isolation and confinement are already extreme, the psychological challenges would be magnified. Without proper support, inmates could become a danger to themselves and others. That's why space prisons would need to integrate mental health care into their core operations. This could include regular counseling, access to virtual reality therapy, and even AI-driven mental health assistants that provide real-time support. By addressing mental health proactively, we could create a system that's not just about containment, but about healing and growth. But perhaps the most important lesson from Earth is the need to avoid systemic inequality. On our planet, prisons often reflect and reinforce societal disparities, with marginalized groups disproportionately represented behind bars. In space, where resources are scarce and survival depends on cooperation, systemic inequality could be catastrophic. Imagine a scenario where certain groups are unfairly targeted or denied access to rehabilitation programs. This wouldn't just be unjust, it could destabilize entire colonies. To prevent this, space prisons would need to be governed by transparent, equitable systems that prioritize fairness and accountability. This might involve international oversight, AI-driven monitoring to detect bias, and robust legal frameworks that protect the rights of all individuals. As we consider these lessons, it's clear that space prisons have the potential to be more than just places of punishment. They could become models of justice, demonstrating how rehabilitation, mental health support, and equity can create safer, more harmonious communities. But this vision isn't just about improving prisons, it's about shaping the future of humanity in space. By learning from the mistakes of the past, we can build a system that reflects our highest aspirations, one where justice is not just about punishment, but about healing, growth, and the collective good. This brings us to a broader question. Could space prisons play a role in deterring interplanetary conflict? As humanity expands into the cosmos, the potential for disputes over resources, territory, and power will only grow. In such a high-stakes environment, the existence of a fair and effective justice system could serve as a powerful deterrent. Knowing that crimes will be met with swift, equitable consequences might discourage individuals or even nations from engaging in harmful behavior. At the same time, a system that prioritizes rehabilitation and reintegration could foster a culture of cooperation and mutual respect, reducing the likelihood of conflict in the first place. In this way, space prisons could become not just a tool for justice, but a cornerstone of peace and stability in the cosmos. Now, let's explore how space prisons could evolve into something even more transformative. A system that not only deters crime but also fosters innovation and collaboration across the stars. As humanity expands into the cosmos, the potential for conflict looms large. Whether it's disputes over lunar mining rights, territorial claims on Mars, or clashes between rival space colonies, the stakes are astronomically high. In such a high-pressure environment, how do we prevent small disagreements from escalating into full-blown wars? This is where space prisons could play a surprising role, not just as places of punishment, but as tools for deterrence and conflict resolution. By establishing a fair and transparent system of justice beyond Earth, we might just create a framework that keeps the peace among spacefaring nations and colonies. One of the most compelling arguments for space prisons as a deterrent is their potential to enforce accountability. Imagine a scenario where two nations clash over a valuable asteroid rich in rare minerals. Without a clear legal framework, such a dispute could quickly spiral out of control. But if both parties know that aggressive actions could lead to consequences like leaders or operatives being tried and incarcerated in a neutral space prison, they might think twice before escalating tensions. This isn't just about punishing individuals, it's about sending a clear message that reckless behavior won't be tolerated in the shared frontier of space. In this way, space prisons could act as a stabilizing force, discouraging conflict before it begins. But deterrence alone isn't enough. To truly maintain peace, we'd need robust systems for resolving disputes and enforcing justice. This is where international tribunals come into play. Picture a space-based court staffed by judges and legal experts from around the world, tasked with adjudicating conflicts between nations or colonies. These tribunals could operate under a unified set of laws designed specifically for the unique challenges of space. For example, they might address issues like resource allocation, territorial boundaries, or even the ethical use of space-based technologies. By providing a neutral forum for resolving disputes, these tribunals could prevent conflicts from escalating and ensure that justice is served fairly and transparently. Space prisons could also serve as neutral zones for conflict resolution. Think of them as diplomatic hubs where opposing parties can come together to negotiate under the watchful eye of impartial authorities. In such a setting, the presence of a space prison might actually foster dialogue and cooperation rather than hostility. For instance, if two colonies are locked in a bitter dispute, they could agree to meet at a neutral space prison to hash out their differences. The very act of coming together in a controlled, secure environment could help to escalate tensions and pave the way for peaceful solutions. It's a concept that turns the traditional idea of prisons on its head, transforming them from places of isolation into centers of reconciliation. Of course, none of this would be possible without a strong system of space-based law enforcement. Enforcing laws in space presents unique challenges, from the vast distances between colonies to the lack of traditional infrastructure. But with advances in technology, we could develop innovative solutions. AI-driven surveillance systems could monitor for signs of conflict or criminal activity, while autonomous drones could respond to emergencies in real time. Space-based law enforcement agencies, staffed by officers from multiple nations, could ensure that justice is administered fairly and efficiently. By combining cutting-edge technology with international cooperation, we could create a system that's both effective and equitable. At their core, space prisons are more than just facilities for incarceration. They're a reflection of humanity's values. How we choose to design and operate them says a lot about who we are as a species. Do we prioritize punishment over rehabilitation? Do we value fairness and accountability, or are we willing to sacrifice justice for the sake of expediency? These are questions that go beyond the technical challenges of building prisons in space. They touch on the very essence of what it means to be human and how we want to shape our future in the cosmos. As we look to the stars, it's clear that space prisons have the potential to be more than just a solution to crime. They could be a cornerstone of peace, a tool for fostering cooperation, and a symbol of our commitment to justice and fairness. By embracing this vision, we can create a future where space isn't just a new frontier, but a place where humanity thrives together. Now, let's explore how space prisons could evolve into something even more transformative, shaping not just justice, but the very fabric of life beyond Earth. Space prisons aren't just about locking people up beyond Earth. They're a mirror reflecting humanity's deepest values, priorities, and ethical dilemmas. What does it say about us if we're willing to build facilities for punishment in an environment as unforgiving as space? Are we prioritizing order and survival over compassion and rehabilitation? Or are we taking a bold step toward redefining justice for a new era? These questions force us to confront the kind of society we want to create as we venture into the cosmos. Do we want to replicate the flaws of Earth's justice systems, or do we have the courage to build something better? At their core, space prisons reveal a tension between two competing visions of the future. On one hand, they could represent progress, a chance to innovate and rethink how we handle crime and punishment. Imagine a system where incarceration isn't just about isolation, but about transformation. Inmates could contribute to the community, learn new skills, and even participate in groundbreaking research. This approach aligns with the principles of restorative justice, emphasizing healing and growth over retribution. It's a vision that reflects humanity's potential for creativity and adaptability, showing that even in the harshest environments, we can strive for fairness and dignity. On the other hand, space prisons could also signal regression, a return to outdated, punitive models of justice. If we design these facilities solely for containment without regard for the well-being of inmates, we risk perpetuating the same cycles of harm and inequality that plague Earth's prisons. The extreme conditions of space isolation, limited resources, and constant danger could make incarceration feel less like a corrective measure and more like a cruel experiment. This raises troubling ethical questions. Are we willing to sacrifice individual rights for the sake of collective security? And if so, what does that say about the values we're carrying into the stars? The debate over space prisons also forces us to examine our priorities as a species. Are we more focused on expanding our reach into the cosmos, or on ensuring that our expansion is guided by principles of justice and equity? The way we design and operate these facilities will send a powerful message about what we value most. For example, if we prioritize sustainability and rehabilitation, we're signaling a commitment to building a future that's not just technologically advanced but also morally sound. But if we prioritize punishment and control, we risk creating a system that's efficient but inhumane, a reflection of our worst instincts rather than our highest aspirations. This brings us to the broader question of what kind of society we want to build in space. Do we want a future where justice is about retribution, or one where it's about restoration? Do we want a system that prioritizes punishment, or one that focuses on prevention and healing? These aren't just abstract questions, they're choices that will shape the lives of countless individuals, both on Earth and beyond. And as we grapple with these decisions, we're not just designing prisons, we're defining the values that will guide humanity's journey into the stars. But here's the exciting part: space prisons could also inspire innovation, pushing us to develop new technologies and systems that benefit everyone. Imagine a facility where advanced recycling systems turn waste into usable resources, or where AI-driven therapy programs help inmates rebuild their lives. These innovations wouldn't just improve the prison system, they could revolutionize how we live and work in space. By tackling the challenges of incarceration in such an extreme environment, we're forced to think creatively, pushing the boundaries of what's possible. In this way, space prisons could become catalysts for progress, sparking breakthroughs that transform not just justice, but the very fabric of life beyond Earth. As we look to the future, it's clear that space prisons are about more than just punishment. They're a reflection of who we are and who we want to become. By approaching these challenges with thoughtfulness and care, we can create a system that's not just effective, but also humane, a system that reflects the best of what humanity can achieve. And in doing so, we'll not only address the issue of crime in space, we'll lay the foundation for a future where justice, innovation, and compassion thrive together. Now, let's explore how space prisons could evolve into something even more transformative, a system that not only deters crime, but also fosters collaboration and progress across the stars. The challenges of building and operating space prisons might seem daunting, but they also present an incredible opportunity, the chance to drive innovation on a scale we've never seen before. Think about it: designing a facility that can sustain life in the harshest environment imaginable forces us to push the boundaries of technology and creativity. From advanced life support systems to AI-driven governance models, the solutions we develop for space prisons could revolutionize not just incarceration, but entire industries here on Earth and beyond. It's a classic case of necessity being the mother of invention, and space prisons could be the catalyst for some of the most groundbreaking advancements of our time. Take life support systems, for example. On Earth, we take essentials like air, water, and food for granted, but in space, every resource must be meticulously managed. A space prison would require closed-loop systems that recycle waste into usable resources, turning carbon dioxide into oxygen, urine into drinking water, and food scraps into fertilizer. These systems wouldn't just keep inmates alive, they'd set a new standard for sustainability. Imagine applying this technology to Earth-based cities, where water shortages and pollution are growing concerns. The innovations born from space prisons could help us create more resilient, eco-friendly communities, proving that even the most extreme challenges can lead to universal benefits. Then there's the role of artificial intelligence. Managing a space prison would be an incredibly complex task, requiring constant monitoring of everything from inmate behavior to life support systems. AI could step in to handle these responsibilities, using predictive algorithms to identify potential conflicts before they escalate or optimizing resource allocation to ensure the facility runs smoothly. But the implications go far beyond prisons. These AI-driven governance models could be adapted for space colonies, helping to manage everything from resource distribution to conflict resolution. They could even inspire new approaches to urban planning on Earth, where smart cities are already using AI to improve efficiency and quality of life. In this way, space prisons could become a testing ground for technologies that reshape how we live and work, both on and off our planet. But innovation isn't just about technology, it's also about rethinking societal systems. Space prisons force us to confront questions about justice, fairness, and human rights in a completely new context. How do we balance punishment with rehabilitation in an environment where every life is critical to survival? How do we ensure that justice is administered fairly when traditional legal systems don't apply? These challenges could inspire new models of governance that prioritize collaboration, transparency, and accountability. For instance, the concept of restorative justice, which focuses on repairing harm rather than simply punishing wrongdoing, might find its perfect application in space where cooperation is essential for survival. These ideas could then be brought back to Earth, offering fresh perspectives on how we handle crime and conflict in our own communities. The long-term implications of space prisons are profound. By tackling the unique challenges of incarceration in space, we're not just solving a logistical problem, we're laying the groundwork for a future where humanity thrives in the cosmos. The technologies and systems we develop could pave the way for sustainable space colonies, where life support, governance, and justice are seamlessly integrated. They could also inspire new ways of thinking about our own society, challenging us to build a world that's more equitable, resilient, and innovative. In this sense, space prisons aren't just a necessity, they're an opportunity to redefine what's possible, both for ourselves and for the generations to come. As we look to the stars, it's clear that the challenges of space incarceration are about more than just punishment. They're a call to action, urging us to push the boundaries of human ingenuity and create a future where justice, sustainability, and progress go hand in hand. And in doing so, we're not just building prisons, we're building a legacy that will shape humanity's journey into the cosmos for centuries to come. As we peer into the distant future, the concept of space prisons raises profound questions about the trajectory of humanity itself. These facilities aren't just a response to crime, they're a reflection of how we, as a species, choose to navigate the complexities of justice, morality, and survival in an environment that's as unforgiving as it is limitless. Over time, space prisons could evolve from being a necessity to becoming a relic of a bygone era, as society itself transforms in ways we can scarcely imagine. But what would that transformation look like, and what does it say about our relationship with crime and punishment as we venture further into the cosmos? One possibility is that space prisons could become obsolete as humanity matures into a more cooperative and harmonious species. Imagine a future where advanced technologies, education, and cultural shifts reduce the root causes of crime to near zero. In such a world, the need for incarceration, whether on Earth or in space, might diminish significantly. Instead of isolating offenders, we could focus on prevention, rehabilitation, and community-based solutions that address the underlying issues driving harmful behavior. This vision aligns with the principles of restorative justice, which prioritize healing and growth over punishment. In a spacefaring society where every individual's contribution is vital, this approach might not just be ideal, it could be essential for survival. But this optimistic view isn't the only possibility. Another scenario is that space prisons could become permanent fixtures of human civilization, evolving alongside our expansion into the cosmos. As we establish colonies on the Moon, Mars, and beyond, the challenges of maintaining order in isolated, high-stakes environments might make incarceration an unavoidable reality. In this future, space prisons could serve as both a deterrent and a safeguard, ensuring that conflicts and crimes don't jeopardize the fragile ecosystems of space habitats. They might even become symbols of stability, reminding us of the importance of accountability in a frontier where the stakes are astronomically high. This duality between obsolescence and permanence forces us to confront deeper philosophical questions. What does it mean to punish someone in an environment as alien and extreme as space? Is it fair to subject individuals to conditions that are inherently harsher than anything on Earth, even if they've committed crimes? And how do we balance the need for justice with the imperative to treat people with dignity, even in the most challenging circumstances? These questions don't just apply to space prisons. They challenge us to rethink the very foundations of justice and morality in a universe that's far more vast and complex than we've ever known. At the same time, space prisons could serve as a catalyst for broader societal change. By forcing us to confront the limitations of our current justice systems, they might inspire new approaches to crime and punishment that prioritize fairness, rehabilitation, and sustainability. For example, the technologies developed for space prisons, like advanced recycling systems, AI-driven conflict resolution tools, and self-sustaining habitats, could be adapted for use in Earth-based communities, helping to create a more equitable and resilient society. In this way, space prisons could become more than just a solution to crime. They could be a stepping stone toward a better future for all of humanity. As we wrap up this exploration, it's clear that space prisons are about more than just locking people up beyond Earth. They're a lens through which we can examine our values, our priorities, and our vision for the future. Whether they become obsolete or evolve into permanent institutions, their impact will ripple far beyond the confines of their walls, shaping how we think about justice, morality, and the human condition in an ever-expanding universe. And as we continue to push the boundaries of exploration, one thing is certain: the choices we make today will echo across the stars, defining the legacy we leave for generations to come. Now, let's take a moment to reflect on the key points we've covered in this journey. From the legal frameworks that might govern space crime to the cutting-edge technologies that could keep offenders contained, we've explored the many facets of space prisons and their implications for humanity's future. We've delved into the ethical dilemmas, the psychological challenges, and the economic realities of building and maintaining these facilities. And we've considered the possibility that space prisons could become obsolete as society evolves, raising profound questions about the nature of justice and punishment in an ever-changing universe. As we look to the stars, it's clear that space prisons are more than just a solution to crime. They're a reflection of who we are and who we aspire to be. By approaching these challenges with thoughtfulness and care, we can create a future where justice, innovation, and humanity thrive together, both on Earth and beyond. And in doing so, we'll not only address the issue of crime in space, we'll lay the foundation for a brighter, more equitable future for all of humanity. As we wrap up this exploration of space prisons, it's clear that the challenges of handling crime beyond Earth are as vast and complex as the cosmos itself. From the legal gray areas of extraterrestrial jurisdiction to the ethical dilemmas of punishment in an unforgiving environment, space prisons force us to confront questions that go far beyond incarceration. They're not just about locking people up, they're about redefining justice for a new frontier, one where every decision carries life or death consequences. The legal frameworks we've discussed highlight the urgent need for international collaboration. Without clear, universally accepted laws, space could become a new Wild West, where disputes over resources or territory spiral out of control. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967 laid the groundwork, but it's just the beginning. We'll need new agreements that address the unique challenges of space crime, from jurisdiction to enforcement, ensuring that justice is both fair and effective. Ethically, space prisons push us to examine our values and priorities. Is it justifiable to subject individuals to the extreme conditions of space, even if they've committed crimes? How do we balance the need for security with the imperative to treat people with dignity? These questions don't have easy answers, but they're essential to address as we venture further into the cosmos. Space prisons could become a test of our humanity, revealing whether we're capable of building a system that's not just efficient but also compassionate. Technologically, the challenges are immense, but so are the opportunities. Designing a self-sustaining prison in space requires innovations that could revolutionize life support, resource management, and even conflict resolution. These advancements wouldn't just benefit space prisons, they could transform how we live and work in space, paving the way for sustainable colonies and long-term missions. In this sense, space prisons could become incubators for the technologies that will define humanity's future. But perhaps the most profound takeaway is this: space prisons are a mirror reflecting our deepest hopes and fears. They force us to confront the shadows within ourselves, challenging us to build a future where justice, fairness, and humanity thrive together. As we reach for the stars, we must also grapple with the complexities of our own nature, striving to create a system that reflects the best of what we can achieve. So, what do you think? How should we handle crime in space, and what kind of justice system would you want to see in the cosmos? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your ideas. And if you enjoyed this journey into the future of justice, don't forget to subscribe for more explorations of the technologies, challenges, and possibilities that await us beyond Earth. Together, let's imagine what justice might look like in the stars and work toward a future where humanity thrives both on Earth and beyond.